taking up our time.
I love Big John introducing it like D-Generation X.
Well, we have a lot to talk about.
We do got a lot to talk about.
Let's
There was
talk
a whole
about
lot going on yesterday.
Yeah, 20 freaking fights is what was going on. Oh, jeez. Yeah, so Bellator last night.
Come on.
Let's talk.
Let's talk about it. First off, I was very impressed with Daniel Carey and how calm he was against Dustin Bolanos. And we talked before, you and I had talked about, and I said, look, Carey's got to wrestle him. If he thinks he's going to stand there and brawl with him, he's going to get into trouble. And I was right, but he did it in a really bright way, really smart way. And that when he grabbed hold of that neck, he knew, I'm not letting go of this thing. You got to give it to Bolanos. He went out, but that was tight, and you could see when it tightened up. And really a big win for Daniel Carey. Showing, man, you know what? He's getting better as a fighter. I was really impressed with him.
Yeah, I expected a little bit more out of Gaston's like submission defense. Just that I expected more. Honestly, I did.
Well, sometimes you get the idea because you've been in practice, and someone grabs your neck and you just tuck down and you just sit there and you're safe. As you know, and as you say, fight speed is different. Fight squeeze is different. Everything's different.
Yeah.
And you think you're safe and you're not. And as soon as he pushed down and then jumped, and when his legs wrapped, that's a lot of pressure, man. He's got a lot of strength now engaged with those legs to put it. You can see him looking over at his corner like, oh, yeah, I got it. Because, you know when you feel it, it's hard. When you're looking at it, you can think, it's not too good, or, it's really good. But when you feel it, because you're the guy pulling on it, you know when your arm is into that neck, and you know when you've got that hold. Yeah,
the one thing that made me believe that he potentially could win this fight when we did the fighter interviews was he said he's going to make an MMA fight. It was going to be an MMA.
Yeah, he said it's not going to be a kickboxing match.
It's not going to be a kickboxing match. And that made me feel more comfortable because the stuff he said in the wrestling interview, I was like, you sound ridiculous right now.
Yeah.
But when he said that made me believe, okay, he's got a chance. If he tried to make it a kickboxing match, he would have got smoked. Would have been done. I thought he was going to wrestle a little bit more. Didn't, but he did exactly what he needed to do.
But
though.
as soon as he did, once the hands touched and we're holding on to him, it was over.
Yeah.
So his wrestling was exactly what it should have been.
Yeah, I guess because I know Gaston's jiu-jitsu coach, Darren, how do you say his last name? Iyama?
Oyeniyama.
Oyeniyama. I'm going to believe you. And then, and I love Darren. Actually, we know each other really well.
And he's a phenomenal coach.
I always call him Darren, never say his last name.
Makes you a smart man.
Yeah, I expected, I think, a little bit more. I expected a little bit better defense. And I understand. We did talk, because we were talking about practice. Like Allen Iverson said, we talking about practice right now? Really? We talking about practice? The bottom line is there's a different squeeze, there's a different pace. Everything is different in a real fight.
Yep.
You can't mimic that in training and practice.
No,
there's no way of doing that. And the other thing too is that what you think you're used to getting out of in training, the guy that you're training against or fighting against, that may be his go-to move.
Yeah.
And so he has different ways of setting it up. He has different ways of knowing when it's in, and he knows when to apply the pressure. But when you're in training, those guys don't always have the same move.
No.
You know what I mean? So like when Khabib was getting ready for Tony Ferguson, I was trying to hit darces on him all the time.
Which time?
Yeah, exactly. All 5 times, by the way. All 5 times. I think it was the second time, and we were working a lot on that. And I was setting up the darces, and all I was doing was trying to hit it from all different ways. I noticed that I was hitting that thing from everywhere by the end of the camp.
Yeah, you get good at it.
Yeah, so then I got better at that, but then his defense got better. But in the beginning, my darce wasn't the same way that Tony would have done it. So if he thought he was going to work on it for like 2 or 3 weeks, Tony would hit that thing from his knees. It's so hard to do that.
Yeah.
You know that. You got to turn an angle and create an angle to make it tight. And I didn't have the length and the reach to do that on Khabib because it's so broad shoulder. But Tony does. Different body types, different styles.
Tony's got very long arms.
Yes.
Tony used to work out at my gym, and he is always crazy as far as just his work ethic was nuts. The intensity that he trained with was nuts. He's got one gear, man, and it's all out.
But I think also too, when you're having fun and it's the all out gear, it doesn't hurt. you don't get as tired.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt him, but everybody that was training with him, they hated him.
I would imagine. But I mean, I think that's also what got him to the level that he's at.
It is exactly what got him to the level he's at.
I think this is a good win for Daniel Carey.
Big win.
Good step in the right direction.
Big win.
But what also made me feel good about him when he sat down in the interviews is he said, I know you guys brought me here to lose. And I was like, and I think you said it, I didn't bring you here. Like, I'm not the one that arranged this fight. Yeah. But it's true. Like he didn't come there to lose. He wanted to make sure that he wasn't a stepping stone for anyone. Yeah. And he came out and he fought a very smart fight. He was able to get on the front headlock. It looked like he tried to snap him down, couldn't get him down. So then when Gaston pulled back, that helped him jump to guard and wrap the legs. I thought it was a great performance by him. So Gaston's got to go back to the drawing board and figure it out.
This is part of it. This is where I would talk about and my whole thing with Gaston is you've got to decide.
Yeah.
You cannot be the three-sport combat athlete.
Yeah.
You can't be a Muay Thai fighter and a kickboxer and an MMA fighter and be successful at the highest level in all of them. It just doesn't work. You're going to have to pick something and commit to it.
Yeah. I mean, that's I feel like Joe Schilling, same thing.
Yep.
And when Joe finally said, look, I'm just going to do
That's
MMA.
I'm MMA. Then, I go, oh, there you go.
Yep.
Now he's going to be dangerous.
Yep. It's just going to take some time because you can only just learn the jiu-jitsu game overnight.
No.
All
right. First round, featherweight. We had a difference in Taiwan Claxton was the guy that you had picked over Emmanuel. And I was kind of surprised by that.
Did I pick? No, that was Jay.
Oh, no. You when we talked, you said, I think Taiwan's got a good shot.
He does have a good shot. I did think he had a good shot, yes.
And I just looked at Emmanuel Sanchez as the guy. Look at, I just said it again. He's so good.
Look at.
Exactly. That's my go-to.
Yeah.
But he is so good everywhere.
Yeah.
And he is the complete fighter. And, man, he brings up pressure. And you could see I was very impressed with what Taiwan was doing at the start of the fight. He got him down. Even when he got him down, he tried to posture, which was beautiful. He's posturing up, trying to land shots that are going to damage him, that's going to slow him down. But you can see as that, he gets up and the fight goes on and that pressure starts to build. And you can see that now that Taiwan is not the guy in control of that pace of the fight. He's got someone pushing him and making him work. It just systematically started to get to him, and it was the experience. Yep. That lack of experience at 5-0, not that, he's not an incredible athlete, great, super fast, but just the entire atmosphere, that size of fight against a guy with that kind of experience, it just all eventually became a tidal wave that drowned him.
Yeah, even though Emmanuel Sanchez isn't throwing anything, he's just walking you down.
Yeah.
And when that pressure happens with an inexperienced fighter, it's only 5-0. I'm not saying he's not good. He's not maybe potentially the future. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's going to learn a big lesson from this.
Yep.
In the fact that, do you remember when we talked about Matt Mitrione, or we met with Matt for his last fight against Karatanov? He had talked about what he did wrong against Big Country.
Yeah.
He punched and he ran. He made himself tired, and then
getting taken down and almost losing that fight.
So when that happened, that's exactly, I felt like what Taiwan was doing towards the end of the first round and into the second round. He started sticking and moving, but he was like sticking and running. That makes you more tired.
Yep.
You have to learn how to fight in the pocket, but be a defensive fighter as well. Cut angles so you're not getting struck. I'll use GSP and Carlos Condit instead of using me, because I took the game plan from them, is with Nate. Nate did that, and Nick did the same thing with GSP and them. Like they learned, boom, boom, cut the angle, and then go to the other side of the cage, make that person come to you. And Claxton didn't do that.
No.
Claxton punched, went 2 feet to the right, and then Sanchez just shifted his feet. And boom, cut him off.
Yeah.
And when you cut him off, it's like, oh, I got to fight again already.
Exactly.
Instead of punching and stepping in, so you're covering the distance.
And making him reset and move off.
Yep. If he could have cut the corner, went to the other side of the cage, made him come, that would have given you a second to get your breath. Yeah. And it would also given you a second to kind of reset. And then he would have had to slowly, gradually walk into your box.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people, they're not used to fighting in that type of situation is fighting is done in little increments of I give some energy, I relax. I give some energy, I relax. And you could see there was a certain point in the fight, Taiwan couldn't relax.
No.
And it was just a steady press on that accelerator that was just starting to diminish that tank.
Yeah, because every time he wasn't throwing punches, he was running. And when he wasn't running, he was throwing punches. Yeah. You've got to have a second where you can go, you got to be able to sit, take a deep breath real quick. Okay, let's fight. And he never had that moment when Sanchez was pushing the pace. He was still trying to move around. He never sat there for a second and went, okay, he's coming to me, get my breath, take my time, set up my strikes. When Sanchez walks forward, when I see someone settle in, it's like, okay, I got to approach with caution. If I see you still moving, I don't need to approach with too much caution.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know you're not set, so there's not as much power on the things that you do when you're not set. Yeah. You're still moving and punching or kicking at the same time you're moving. It takes away that power.
It does.
So I thought the reason I think when you and I were talking about this fight, I said I could see an upset because it was only a 3-round fight.
Yeah.
I think Sanchez said it best in the fighter interviews. In a 5-round fight, all these guys better be afraid. Because if he fights at that pace for 5 rounds, which we saw with Patricio, it's nasty. Yeah. It's nasty. So if you are not relaxed, he's the guy. If I was him, I'd be selecting all the young bucks.
Oh, see it. All right, let's go to this because our next fight was Pedro Carvalho versus Sam Sicilia, and Pedro did exactly what you and I both thought he would do. Mm-hmm. He'll take some shots and he's just going to systematically start breaking Sam down. Yeah. Gets the submission. Gets a beautiful face crank on him. He was trying to set up this neck crank here, and he almost had it at a certain point. But I want to see, and I know we don't have a bracket there, and we know we got that thing, but there's 2 guys I want to see: Emmanuel Sanchez against Pedro Carvalho
in a 5-round fight.
Oh, is that going to be a fight?
Yep. Because Sam Sicilia was dominating the fight for the first round. Then you could tell he started getting tired. He was just muscling him around, throwing Pedro Carvalho down.
Throwing hard shots.
Just, I wouldn't say wasting energy because it was effective. Yeah. But then you can't do that for the full 3 rounds. It's hard to keep that pace. You needed to control the position, and he never was able to do that. And you could credit Pedro Carvalho for never settling on bottom, always trying to work stuff. There was moments where he was in trouble. Yeah. It looked like Sicilia had his back. Had moments where he was on top, almost like in full mount.
Yeah, and at that point, when Sam had his back, it was look at the calmness. Look at I'm okay. I know where I'm at. I'm going to hold my arm here. I'm going to put
wrist control.
You saw exactly. It's okay, and that's what's showing for a guy that's 24 years old. He looks older. Let's just be honest, man. Okay, Pedro, you're gonna lose your hair, dude. Just get rid of it now. Yeah, it's okay. Keep
lost
the beard.
Battle.
Keep the beard. The solar panel has already began. Yeah. But, man, he can fight. And for a young guy, he is skilled. He has got some talent.
Yeah, he looks younger there.
Yeah, there he does.
Yeah. He must have been 14.
That's because exactly he's 15 years of age there. But I was thinking about matchups, and either Emmanuel Sanchez against Pedro or Adam Borch and Emmanuel.
Interesting.
Either one. I look and go, man, that's a fight. That is one. Yeah. That's going to prove exactly who's the guy, because Borch does a really good job of controlling the pace stuff. I think Pedro is actually the guy that has a more well-rounded game. He may not be as athletic as Borch, but he's got an incredibly well-rounded game. His stand-up is solid. His wrestling is good. His submission game we know is outstanding. He kicks well. He kicks at the right time. He hides his kicks behind his hands. He goes to the body well. He does all those things, but then Sanchez is just a monster, in my opinion.
See, for me, I feel like Sanchez's pace, and the same thing with Pedro Carvalho, his pace also, from what I've seen so far of him, is I think both those guys, if Darrion Caldwell gets past the first round, I'd be selecting him. For someone who doesn't seem to have a gas tank past the 3rd round, I would push on someone that potentially.
Oh, you're saying you were the guy making that pick.
Yep.
You're going to look at Darrion Caldwell and say, I got a guy that I can get tired.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the things, and even though he's coming up in weight, I don't think it's going to be that much of a factor, because that pace, Darrion, we've said this before, guys that are explosive like Darrion Caldwell, and he's had these issues since he wrestled in college.
Yep.
Okay, is that he is somebody
He's a
that
fast
he's
twitch,
fast
muscle
twitch,
fiber athlete.
Exactly.
You can't be a sprinter and a marathon runner.
Nope.
You're going to be one or the other.
Yep.
And you've got to live with that, but you got to figure out if you're going to be that sprinter because you have that kind of, just body chemistry. You have always got to be in control of the pace.
Yeah. And to touch back on Claxton, Darren Culver reminds me a lot of Claxton. He's constantly moving, throwing 1-2 big strikes, but Claxton is younger, 5-0. Darian doesn't have excuses anymore. He's the former champion. He's coming up in weight. That was his excuse. He was cutting too much weight. Sure, he's big for the weight, but there's no excuse anymore. You're now going up in your weight
class.
Not
at 145.
Yeah, not at 145. So you shouldn't be gassing out. I still think he's going to because of his fast twitch muscle fiber. I think that his explosiveness, his inexperience, he reminds me a lot of Mike Van Arsdale. Ooh. Somebody who is very talented, can wrestle like the Dickens, okay? But then when it comes down to it, just always gets tired because he's so fast twitch, so explosive. Doesn't know how to settle in positions sometimes. He just holds you there using all of his strength, he moves around so much, which creates space for you or for you to get up and he's got to work hard again.
Good comparison with Van
away.
Arsdale.
Yeah.
Man, he was a hell of a wrestler.
God, he was phenomenal. I trained with him for years because all of his MMA fights were at AK.
Yeah.
So he was at our gym the whole time, man. He, the fucking best storyteller I've ever been around was Mike Van Arsdale. Yes, the best. Unbelievable. So if I was looking on the other side of the brackets, which they're not really brackets, but the other side of the guys that are fighting, and I'd be trying to plot, because I talked to Campos last night, and he was like, who should I take next? And I said,
he asked you.
Yeah, I said, I can't tell you that, but I said, you had the right fight for you to get back on track, and he had the right fight because you're beatable. I said, I want to let you know that. Like, it was 100. They looked based off of your fight with Carvalho and your other 2 fights before that where you were in a slump, and they thought, look, this is a good opportunity for Strauss to continue his story, and it's a good opportunity for you to get back on track
against
being a 2
guy
former
that's got
champion.
a name and there's
I said, so I can't tell you who to take next, so because you got to see who the next bracket is, who ends up being in that other group of guys. So, but yeah, he did ask. And I just told him and his coaches, I'm like, I'm not putting my name in that hat, buddy. But I wish the best for you.
And when you look and you go, and you could give him the advice, you could give him what you believe, and it could be he doesn't even get that choice based upon where he gets that pick. So that's the thing that's so cool.
I got a little concerned because I gave him the advice about quitting his job after his last fight, and he did that.
Yeah,
so I got a little concerned.
That was the right advice, man. I said it before. I don't care, and I don't care what sport it is. If you're gonna fight or you're gonna play any sport at the highest level, you have got to be 100% in. You cannot be 50%.
Yeah.
You can't be 70%. You got to be 100%. And if you're not, then you're not putting yourself in the best position to be successful.
Well, this sport more than anything, because like I talked about this last night on the show, is we're in the hurt business.
Yep.
We're not. This is not.
You don't
slapping
play
a puck
fighting,
around.
man.
Yeah, you're not slapping a puck around or catching a football. Okay, you're fucking hurting people, and when that happens, that becomes an issue.
Or they're trying to hurt you.
Yeah, they're trying to hurt you, and then that's the main thing. Is like you got to be either all the way in or all the way out. Okay, this is not something like I said. You have the rest of your life to go pull steel, is what I told him. Do whatever. You have the rest of your life to go do that job. Okay, this period and this window for you to be a professional athlete and be one of the best is so short. You don't understand. I was blessed enough to do it for 21 years. But that was because I spent so much time in the gym just trying to recreate myself every time. When things grew, right? Because I went through the phases where, remember when everyone was just take them down against the fence?
Oh, yeah.
And now it's like you take guys down against the fence, they're just right back up. It's like, okay, now I got to take them out in the middle. Okay, like people stopped wrestling in the open mat, had to make that adjustment. Okay, ankle locks used to be popular when I first started. Now they're they weren't. They went away. Now they're coming back. The game it evolves.
Well,
and if you don't keep up with
Evolutions.
if you don't keep up with it, you'll be left in the dust.
Well, and it's the whole point of when you look at it. It's when you have that was not what I was saying.
Look at
I said look at it. Thank you very much. When you do look at it though, if your opponent in fighting is training more than you, is putting in more time, is putting in that extra bit for their cardio, is putting in just a little bit more into technique. These are all little steps above that you've got to now overcome. If you're being outworked before the fight, there's a good chance you're going to be worked on during it.
Yeah, I have no doubts about that. I think that's what makes certain guys so good.
It's what makes Tony Ferguson.
Yeah.
Just talking about him. That's what makes Tony Ferguson so dangerous.
Yeah, I feel the same. Like Patricio, same thing.
Same thing.
For me, I feel like it's Patricio. He could tell he's just someone that's just in the gym all the time,
and he works at getting better.
And I feel the same way about Benson Henderson. Benson's one of those guys. He's just constant. If he's not in the gym training for himself, he's in there helping his guys.
Yeah.
And that's just true leadership. And I think I've always been intrigued with him and the respect that his guys have for him at his gym and the way they talk about him. And like Henry Krause is like, dude, he's just an all around great guy.
Yeah.
And that says a lot. I think when you have guys that are always working hard in the gym, when you go to fight them, they're gonna be a problem. Because they don't, like with Ben, when I fought him, he never got tired. I was like, you little shit. Like I was usually the guy like pushing the pace on guys, and I could tell he wasn't getting tired. He just fights a really conservative style of fighting,
especially in the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Slow starter.
Starts off slow.
Yep.
Lets it build. He never overextends in the fight. And that's part of that's what Miles Jury coming up. You've got to understand the style that Benson Henderson brings, and
what was that again? Look it. Go ahead.
Is that what I said?
Yes.
It's a matter of Benson he's the guy that built. Adam Piccolotti kind of got that, and I was very impressed with Adam in his win last night. But Adam Piccolotti got into Benson and was doing great work, and then realized this guy's he's continuing to build. As it got into the second round, it was like, oh man, I've got to regroup here into that third. So Benson Henderson up here, incredibly smart.
Oh.
Down here, phenomenal athlete.
Yes.
And dude, he's got heavy leg kicks.
He's got heavy leg kicks, but what really impressed me, honestly, there was a couple moments in there where I had like caught his leg and I went to lift and elevate it. He's extremely flexible.
Yeah.
He's hopping around, got great balance, got Flintstone feet. So he's got.
He have Flintstone.
He's able to like kind of. He has a good base. You're not just tripping him. He's tripping over his ankle or his toes. No, he's got a good balance and he's flexible. Man. He's a full package. Yeah. He truly is, and I enjoy watching him and seeing all those things, everything he does, and growing. So,
I've only seen one guy overrun Benson, and that was when he fought Koreshkov, and I thought the size difference just caused him a huge discrepancy in that fight. But
that's because he was having so much success against the UFC guys at 170, so he believed in himself that he could be able to get it done when he came over to Bellator, and he was like, "Hey, give me." Huge mistake.
Oh yeah, and I've talked to him about that fight. He goes, man. He goes, that guy was just a beast. And, I give it to Benson for going 5 rounds in it because he was taking some shots. When you're in there, as a referee, most of the time it's like, and every now and then a guy will get hit and you go, oh. Yeah. You can feel it, how hard it hits him. You hear it. You hear the sound coming out of the fighter, and you go, God dang it, that had to hurt, man. That was bad. Man, Benson had some big shots in that, but Borch against Curran.
Yep.
You got to be impressed with Adam Borch, man.
I am impressed with him,
but don't do it.
I'm impressed with him. But remember when we talked the other day? I think I think we didn't talk about it on the show. We talked about it during the fight week. The first round was what I was afraid of, not just for this
You
fight.
called the first round.
Yeah, but not just for all. Like I was talking about for a lot of these guys. There's so much on the line, and I was afraid we were going to get more of like first rounds like that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we didn't.
No, we didn't. We had some great fights.
There's just so much involved and so much at stake for these guys. This opportunity for them to really just put money away and send their kids to school.
Yeah.
And so that to me was a first round. I was like, gosh. You got to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to be. I know in a 5-round fight it's different. We're not really pushing the action because 5 rounds. You got a long ways to go.
A long ways.
So I get that. But this is one of those things. Like I would have liked to have seen him use his youth a little bit more in that first round.
See, I give him credit in the fact he looked at it. He's facing a very, very experienced, cagey veteran, a guy that's dangerous, a guy that's hard to hurt, and I really appreciated that he was taking his time. He was picking his shots, especially the low calf kick, and I talked about it during the fight. Hey, that kick's starting to have an effect. You can see it. Look at the damage on his leg. Look at the way he's taking steps.
Yeah.
And it was that low calf kick that started the downfall of Pat Curran in this fight. You know, the knee connected, but it was more of a weight and pushover.
Yeah.
But when his opportunity came, look at him open up. Look at him go after it. He's not just sitting there saying, "Oh, I'll just try to close this round out and win." I'm going after you to finish you. And
yeah, I think we need to make sure everyone understands. Pat Curran broke his leg.
Yeah.
So that's a big reason.
How did he break his leg?
Well, obviously from the kicks.
Boom.
But I'm saying though.
So who broke his leg? Borch broke his leg.
That fucking ref, man. I tell you, sometimes he just gets in the way. No, I thought great leg kicks. I've also said this numerous times, is that the calf kick is changing the game. Guys that can do it fast, and the jeopardy of your foot being caught is less likely because you're kicking so low. And it's going to be so fast. It's meant to be a fast kick that just does a ton of damage really fast without really a whole lot of risk of getting taken down.
That's the best part. It is the risk factor in throwing that calf kick that makes it so appealing, because the worst thing that can happen for you is you hit the wrong spot and you kind of damage your lower leg while you're damaging your opponent's also.
No, I agree.
That's where your risk. But if you hit it to the outside normally where it should, you're damaging him and not damaging yourself, and it's effective. It makes it difficult to feel your leg if you're the guy getting hit, because it starts to be where you can't feel when your foot's touching.
Yeah, because when guys or girls try to catch that low-level calf kick, what that does, that opens up the head kick next. So when I used to do it is I would wait for them to start trying to reach down and try and stop it, but the majority of the time they wouldn't. But if they did, then I would eventually try to come up top to the head kick, at least to the body or the head, because they dip down to try to catch that leg. But yeah, it just changes the game. I mean, I don't know if you recall, but a friend of mine, Justin Wilcox, had fought in Bellator, and he got hit.
Yeah,
I can't remember the guy's name.
I can.
Sniper. Oh man, I don't even know how Justin couldn't. I swear he came 4 months later, still could not be kicked or couldn't be no pressure on his leg when we were grappling. He wore a pad over it for 4 or 5 months. After that, he couldn't still use that leg.
Yeah, the Sniper Stepanian, he just lit his leg up.
Yeah.
So this one?
Yeah.
That's it.
He reminds me of, what's his name? Artem Lobov.
Stepanian?
Yeah. The look of him, that's all. I'm not saying the way they
so
fight.
Much faster than Lobov.
Yeah.
Maybe doesn't have quite the power in his hands, but his kicks are so good, and he's so good. His spinning, he reminds me of a smaller version of Koreshkov. He is very fast. He's got very technical stand-up, and man, he just moves really well. He just doesn't have the grappling of a Koreshkov.
Yeah, we saw that here. He was able to try to basically drop Justin a couple times with the leg kicks, and then Justin was able to finally get on his neck.
Justin was a gorilla.
Yeah. That's why we call him the Silverback.
That dude was
just nasty.
Built. That's what we see where I come from. He's built like a brick shit house.
Yeah.
Solid.
True.
Just
true.
Crazy.
I never understood why he was one of those guys that had all the potential to do so much. Yeah. I trained with him because he was at AK.
Yeah, I remember.
And I didn't get it. When the lights came on, sometimes he showed. Yeah, exactly. I know it was all mental. Yeah. Because there was no doubt he had the ability. There's no doubt.
Physical was definitely there.
And not only that, but he also had the conditioning. And I felt like guys that have that conditioning, you should have the confidence to just push, like Emmanuel Sanchez, just get after it. And as I got later in, long in the tooth in my career, I kind of got away from that. I used to be the guy that just try to always walk you down, just, try to not get touched as I was putting the pressure. Yeah. But as I got later into my career, I started not being as active, because Bob's like, look, every time you do something, you're dominating the fight. Just do more. You're not doing enough. Like that. When I was younger, I didn't have that problem. It was I was doing too much carelessly.
See, that when you get older, you want to be comfortable.
John, yeah.
John, come a little bit closer there.
Oh, I got it.
So yeah, that was the issue. So I mean, like with him, I always knew he was in the best shape. Justin Wilcox. I always knew he had good wrestling. He just never really put it all together and had the confidence to do it.
But see, and this is what you'll get a lot of guys that we talk about all the time. what happens in the gym stays in the gym.
Yeah.
And there's reasons for it. Okay?
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons for it. But one of the things is, how many guys have you known, and I've known quite a few, that in the gym, they can absolutely beat any world champion there is, or they can make their life miserable. But put them under the lights, when it counts with the pressure, they cannot perform at that same level. And that is a mentality, you know, and it's something that is, it's harvested and it's learned and it's nurtured by everyone to a certain point. Some guys automatically have it, and some guys don't.
Let's talk about Vitor Belfort.
Oh.
Remember, in the gym, everyone's talking, he's the greatest thing to slice bread. Then you put the bright lights on and just couldn't get it done. Like in the big fights. Sure, he won some highlight reel stuff.
Up here, didn't believe in himself.
When he got there, I have a friend of mine I train with is Thomas Dion.
Yeah.
Phenomenal kickboxer, some of the best takedown defense I've ever seen. Get him in the MMA fight. Couldn't stop a takedown.
Yeah, guy would just
couldn't push the
put
pace.
him right down on his back.
And guys would not just take him down. Guys were like landing clean kickboxing stuff. He would stand. He's taking DC down. He's taking Luke Rockhold down. Just sparring with him. I fucking hated it. He would dismantle me. But when the lights came on, you're like, fuck, what is going on? Why are you losing to these guys? Yeah. And it's just all the ability, all the talent, and you don't know what it is.
Pressure, look at pressure. Pressure does the two things. It creates diamonds and it crushes rocks. Yeah. You know, and it's just the way it is. And that's why it's everything. You know, it's that mentality that is the most important thing. I tell guys all the time, the physical is super important, but the mental is everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because the mental is, your confidence is controlled by your mental.
Absolutely.
So if your confidence isn't there, then this game's not for you.
That's it.
So I mean, Adam Borks, and then of course we'll talk Campos and Strauss.
Campos, came out and did exactly what he was supposed to do.
Yeah.
Go after him, you know, be in the stand-up, throw hard, wrestle hard, put him on his back. We said, if Daniel Strauss is on his back, he's going to have problems. He doesn't fight well off of his back. Yeah. He ends up making big mistakes trying to get off of his back. Campos took I was scoring the fight, and then you could tell by the judges' scores, 2 judges gave him 2 rounds of 10-8 in this fight. Wow. That's how much he dominated the fight. And then at the end, I was like, and I asked him during the questions, 30 seconds left, you have won this fight. It is over. And he gets up a la like Max Holloway and says, come on, come down. And I go, what are you thinking? Yeah. You know, I love it. And I go, and you're freaking crazy. Yeah. You know, all it takes is one. And Daniel has that power. He can land that one, and it's all over.
I'm not trying to take anything away from Campos on how he fought. I thought he did a great job. It was good for him to get back on the winning track. Daniel didn't look himself.
He's not.
We know he's not.
Let's just
be
honest.
But he just, from the very first kick when he fell.
I think, when we say we know he's not, we were talking and we thought we're not sure that he's there. Yeah. And then when we watched him, we knew we were right. He wasn't there.
Well, I felt like he was good for about 10 seconds. And then he threw that kick and fell. And the rest of the fight was done after that.
I could tell you that in his corner, when he threw the kick and then came back to his corner, he says, the mat's slippery. Oh. And I can tell you, no, it wasn't. Yeah. I was on that mat. They do put a adhesive down on that mat, and I moved all around with bare feet. It wasn't slippery.
Interesting.
It's just you're not feeling it. You're not getting that little tactile feel of that mat, and that can happen to guys. Daniel's got some more rehab to do, get himself back. I think he's trying to fight now to he's got, obviously a life to live and bills to pay like all of us. And, he's trying to push it. But you could tell he was getting, I got neck problems. Yeah. And I got serious neck problems.
Well, you've got problems. But
that's mental problems. That's different. Mental problems and neck problems are completely different.
I've got one too. He's from Scotland. I got one of those too.
Dave, you're not a problem, baby. Just tell him mudda. It's a matter of, at any moment, just right now, my left arm just cramped.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's from my neck, and then I'll get this firing of a stinger going down my arm, and you could see it happen to Daniel Strauss during the fight. And this is what happens when you have neck injuries, and they can pop up at any time.
Yeah, I went through a part of my career. I would say it was right around the Bobby Green fight. I had no feeling in my right arm, so I actually had to go get like almost like a epidural or whatever it is, like where they shoot it into the nerve.
Yep.
And it numbed it. It was the cortisone. It wasn't called cortisone. It was something else but they shot right into the nerve, which brought the swelling down in the nerve. So then my arm came back. But I can understand why when when I was there for that procedure, the very first question they ask you on the waiver is, "Are you feeling suicidal?"
Oh yeah,
Because there are moments there.
I've had exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly.
There
what
was
it's like.
moments in my life during that time when my arm was that way, and it was that way for probably about 5 or 6 months. Every day it felt just tingling and just no sensation in my hands and my fingers.
Both of my thumbs.
And
dead.
it was just misery, and all of a sudden you're just like, this is not how I want to live my life. I can't. I'm only, at the time I want to say I was like 36 or 37. I'm like, there's no way I'm living another 30 years with this in my fucking, it was horrible.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise I would have had surgery had that not worked. Yeah, it was miserable. It sucked. So when I see him going through, like yesterday at the end of the fight when his arm dropped and he like started doing that, and I'm thinking to myself, you need to figure it out before you get back in the cage.
Yep.
Yeah, he just needs to figure it out. The good thing is, I believe a lot of these guys got a little bit more fight money than their normal fight purses to enter into the tournament, which was great.
Yep.
So hopefully he has a little bit of a cushion now after that long layoff for him to, try and get more rehab, try to get a little bit stronger.
He talked. He's moving back to Florida.
Yeah.
He's leaving. Doesn't like Vegas.
No one does.
And he went to Vegas actually to work with Dr. William Smith, who's the guy who did my neck, did Tito Ortiz's neck. And I understand why he would go there for him. But, you got to be comfortable where you're at.
Yeah.
You got to be happy in your life. Hopefully, he's going to go back to Florida, get himself straight, be able to start working on getting all these problems. And those problems might not ever go away. I know mine haven't. I've had 3 surgeries and still got problems, and I'll have them. But it's exactly like you're saying. It can get so bad. Mine was so bad at a certain point, I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't sleep. You could ask my wife. I would get an hour of sleep. That was it.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
I could get to a certain position, and I would be in that position for 20 seconds. All of a sudden, fire, and
yeah.
That's what happens when you got neck injuries.
No, yeah. For mine, it was I could only sleep on one side, but then your body gets numb on that side, and you got to move. And when you move, it's like, okay, I can't get comfortable again. And they're like, okay, then you want to go back to that same side because that's where you got your best sleep for an hour or two. But then your ass and your hip and your arm is numb, and you're just like, this is bullshit. Yeah, and then I can see why people will. Like that question, when that struck me, the very first question was, "Are you feeling suicidal?" And I was like, "Wow, have you been noticing anger or depression or any of this?" I was like, "This is serious. Yeah. This is not." I never thought about it that way until I signed that paperwork. I was like, "Wow, there's a lot going on when those are the top questions when you've got neck problems." Yeah. But we'll see. I think. Campos he's got his work cut out for him, though. This tournament is filled with killers. And he's the one, I think, out of all of them, though, is that if he doesn't fight a smart fight, he's not going to get very far. He has the potential to get far, but he has got to be, I think, a lot of the guys, given his skid on his 3-fight losing streak and then now getting a big win, but we saw Daniel Strauss wasn't the same guy. A lot of these guys might be starting to kind of like look to aim and see who they're going to take next.
Look, let's be honest. If you're Derek Campos, most of these guys in the tournament looking and going, that's the fight I want. He's more one-dimensional through a lot of his fights than other guys. Yeah. He showed some dimensions with his fight with Strauss, but again, I think Strauss is a diminished fighter right now as far as his abilities. And, that's part of the gamesmanship that we're going to see in Los Angeles when these guys start to put their names on that board. It's a matter of, when do you want to fight? How do you feel coming off of, if you're one of the 4 winners here, am I injured in any fashion? Well, if I'm injured, I might want to, if I get one of those early things, I might want to put my name in a bracket that's down a ways away so I can get through my injury because I got to fight. That's just the way it is. Or I'm pulling out of this tournament, which means I'm not going to get, the ability to get the championship or that $1 million? Or is it that I want to fight early so I can get more rest for the next round? There's so many things that guys are going to have to actually think about. And then on top of that, who's in that bracket? Do I want to face that guy, or would I rather have this guy and have these two guys cancel one or the other out, and I'll take the winner of that if I can, depending upon where that bracket is. And there's a lot to it.
There is a lot to it because, like we were talking about with Sanchez. Sanchez, I feel like, needs to fight one of the young guys and do exactly what he did to Claxton, push the pace, make them break in a 5-round fight. And I think he's gonna have a ton of success. And like he said in the fighter meetings, he's like these guys don't want me to get to the 5-round fights. Wow. He's like, because I'm the guy that everyone should be afraid of. And I said that. It's funny. Remember when he sat down? He's like, I have a bone to pick with you. And I was like, wait a second. I think you misunderstood. I said it really is his tournament to lose. I could see him and Patricio being in the finals again.
Yeah, well, he took. You said that line. It's Emmanuel Sanchez's tournament to lose, and he took it like you meant that. Oh, he's going to lose.
Yeah, no.
And it was like, no, he's saying that
only
you're
can lose
in control of your destiny in this tournament. You're the one. You either perform and win, or you're going to not perform and lose, based upon not being that guy that night that you can be.
Yeah, I agree. So I guess we can just jump right into the controversy of Bader and Kongo.
Oh man, yeah. Let's talk about that one, because
was it in the nose or was it in the eye?
Someone
said it was in the nose. I didn't see it. Some of it went
during the commentary. I said, man, I don't see it. I didn't see and I asked referee Mike Beltran. I said, hey, he goes, no, John, I saw it go in his eye. I said, okay, and so that's what I'm buying. But I never saw it, and I was like, what? I don't get it. But Kongo is saying it went in his eye. Bader. This is what I got out of the fight. As flat out as it can be, Bader is at a different level than Cheick Kongo. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
He's too fast for him. He hits hard. He's just as strong as him. And he can bring a pace and put Kongo in places that he is not comfortable.
Yeah.
And not saying that Kongo, didn't get poked in the eye. Maybe he did. That's why the fight ended. But when you... there again, it comes down to that mindset, Josh, and that mindset is, am I a fighter? If I want to fight, then I take the 5 minutes, that I can get in saying, let me try to clear my eye. Let me try to clear my eye. Okay. Instead, right away, I can't see. That's telling me I'm not really happy with where I'm at.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I want to try to side with him, but I can't. I'm trying to play devil's advocate here. The bottom line is you've been fighting long enough to know the last things you say to the doctor when he comes in is, I can't see.
Absolutely.
Just say hey, it's clearing up.
Give me a second.
Yeah, it's a little blurry. But
it's a little blurry. That's all you got to say.
It's clearing up. I'm able to see. Just give me a second.
Yep. And they're going to give it to you.
Yeah. If you first words out of your mouth are, I can't see.
You just asked to get out of the fight.
Yeah, you're basically saying you don't want to fight.
Exactly.
So, and it wasn't as if he's had 4 or 5 fights. Okay, he's fought a lot of the best guys. He's been in there. He knew exactly what he was doing.
It's a 40-some fight veteran.
Yeah.
And then look at all the fights on top of it that were in MMA.
Yeah.
It's just and sometimes this right here, and this is what I talked about with Bader. Look at the leg underneath Kongo's leg, lacing it, keeping it up off of the ground so he cannot get up. And people think, "Oh, just pull your leg out." You can't do that. It just doesn't work that way.
Can you zoom in on that?
I don't think I can. There you go. It's up his nose. It's right up his nose.
Yeah, but keep going. I think there's a little bit more. Maybe go back.
You got to go back because you can tell by his reaction he's saying it already happened.
So
now it's going to be way past that.
It's right here-ish.
Because he throws an uppercut, and I was wondering, was it the uppercut that hits him in the eye right there?
Yeah.
And you can't tell.
Could have been the punch.
I see his thumb right there.
That's in the nose.
Yeah. There's one little part. Let me see. Let me zoom out real quick. There's one little part
and you can't see right there because his hand's covering Bader's hand. It's so hard to tell.
Yeah.
So right here when it fades to the next shot, there's a slight kind of graze maybe right there.
Maybe that little thumb hand came up.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's really like it's hard. Right here it could have happened, but it's really hard to see. It's in the nose there, for sure. And now he grabs his eye. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have to agree with you, though. There's a couple things. As fighters, we know those are not the words you say when the doctor comes in.
Well, and look, it could be that you did get poked in the eye and that it's bad, but give yourself every opportunity if you want to be this guy that's going to be, in this heavyweight championship fight. Give yourself every opportunity to see if you can make it through it.
Well, let's talk about the consequences. The consequences are this. He's 43 years old.
He ain't ever getting another one.
He won't ever get another shot.
Nope.
That's it.
And that's what I'm
You're
talking
done.
about.
You're done. Like you're
have to
not
think of those
done, but
things.
you're just not getting another shot. They're not going to remake this fight within a year. You're going to be 44, maybe 45 by the time you actually do. If they were to give it to you again, and that's it. It's it.
Well, and Bader already talked to Scott Coker about going back down to light heavyweight.
Yes.
And you look and you go, that's a realistic conversation. If you're Scott Coker saying, hey, well, no matter what, if you lose the light, I need you to fight as the light heavyweight champion. So we're just going to say, in your next fight, I want you to be light heavyweight. If you're going to defend that title, so he's already talking to him about coming down. So now the heavyweight title, it isn't going to change hands for a while.
No.
And
well, because down below at 205, he's got real tough fights at that weight class. You got Lyoto now.
Oh my God!
And then you've got Lovato.
I did the
Jr.
Lyoto
potentially
Machida Ryan Bader first fight. Now I'm not saying it's going to be the same fight, but Lyoto knocked Ryan unconscious in that fight.
It poses a big threat. I think Lyoto poses a huge threat to Ryan Bader.
Yep.
And the other thing is that I don't understand why he would go down.
I don't either.
Just stay.
I just look and say, and it comes down to the whole thing of this is what everyone gets into this big. I want to be big. I want to be bigger, stronger. Fedor lived off of being fast. If you watch Bader's fast.
Yep. DC, same thing.
He's stiff in a lot of his movement, but at least now he used to lean. When he would throw his hands, he would lean instead of moving his feet.
Yeah.
Now his coaches have him. He's moving his feet as he's throwing, so he has balance, which creates more power, which puts him in a better position, and then he's got his wrestling on top of it. Man, at heavyweight, I don't care if you're bigger than him. He's got absolutely the technical talent in the wrestling game to put anybody on their butt, and he's got the power in his hands to hurt him.
Yeah, what I said yesterday was that when these guys go from 205 to heavyweight, they develop a little bit more power. DC was that way.
Yeah.
Also, too, when you have a guy who's a 205 pounder going to heavyweight, they're faster than the heavyweights. And if you get any of those guys from 205 to heavyweight that have any type of wrestling, you pretty much can dominate the heavyweight division because majority of the heavyweights
don't wrestle
in
well.
Combat sports are not athletic. Because if you were athletic, you'd be playing football, basketball, some other sport that makes real money. Okay, because let's be honest.
Instead of getting punched in the head.
Instead of getting punched in the head, like legit. That's just we're being 100% upfront about that. These guys, like DC, doesn't look like he's athletic, can still at 41 years old can do a standing backflip. These are things that it just. And Bader's that guy too. Maybe not as athletic as DC when it comes to that portion of it, but he can still wrestle. He's still explosive, extremely fast, and now with the maturity and the confidence that he has, he's a different level of fighter right now.
Oh, he's completely different.
So those are the two. Those are the guys you brought up. Fedor, and I look at Fedor as DC is like the newer generation of what Fedor was, except Fedor had better submissions.
DC's a better wrestler than Fedor.
Wrestler,
Fedor's a better submission guy.
And then Bader's a mixture of the two guys, just without the the long kind of the way they punch. It's funny how Fedor and DC kind of punch similar with that little loopy punches and things like that. Yeah. Ryan Bader has more of the straight punches and and the blast double, whereas DC is more of a finesse guy.
Yeah.
What? I mean, I'm excited. I would like to see him fight Minakov. That's why
what I would like to see.
I would like to see that fight, and everyone's going to say like, "Oh well, Minakov beat Kongo, and Minakov lost to Kongo, or beat him and lost to him."
Say it both ways.
Say it both ways, but people need to understand Minakov had an infection. It was on antibiotics the week that he fought Cheick Kongo. Just didn't pull out of the fight. It hurt his conditioning. So now, if they were to fight, I think Minakov when he fought Johnson, what was his name?
Tim Johnson.
Tim Johnson. Sorry, I want to say Tony every time, but Tim Johnson. When he fought Tim Johnson, like He flung him around, threw him around. He looked very explosive. Looked back to the old Minikoff that we know. That's a fight that I want to see.
I would love
both good
see
wrestlers,
that fight.
both good strikers.
Yep.
Minikoff is a true heavyweight.
You
know, Bader came in. I want to say
Good movement,
229.
not quite as fast as Bader.
Yeah.
But how'd you like the little escapade with Rampage coming in, trying to get his moment?
Is that what we're calling it?
Oh, come on, man! I've known Rampage too long. I can't tell you. It's so funny because it's ingrained in me. As soon as he started doing it, I got up out of my seat and I went, "What the hell am I doing?"
Yeah.
And I went and sat back down, and it was because I'm so used to, and I can't tell you how many times I've grabbed a hold of Quentin, picked him up, and moved him. And he's, John, let me go. He goes, I gotta make my next fight. And I'm going. And as soon as I'm watching, I go, well, there's Quentin making his next fight, trying to set it up. But
he looks a little big right now.
Oh, a little big?
Yeah, he's got to be pushing 260.
Oh, 270.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. I didn't want to call him out, but I think
it's okay. He's a heavyweight. He's been a heavyweight for a little bit. But he does not have the speed.
Yeah, that's another guy we got to talk about. Yeah, that's Josh Barnett. He's been signed with Bellator for a while now.
Where's he at?
Barnett, where are you at?
Where you at, John?
Yeah, I think that also is another great fight I'd like to see. Bader and him.
I wouldn't put Bader against Josh right away.
Or Minikoff.
Not that. Okay, I would do
or
that.
Or Minikoff and Barnett. That'd be a great fight.
I would do Minikoff and Barnett right now.
That's how Dave looks right there. The old Barnett body style. That's Dave right now.
Ain't
Dave, why
wrong
don't you
with that
lift
body
your shirt
style,
up?
Aren't you retired, bro?
Let me see. I don't look like that, though. Yeah. I don't look like you. I'm retired and I don't look like you. So funny. Dave is 30 years old, and look at the way he. Do you ever? Yeah, that's a poor excuse for 30. You're wasting
you don't have to take this stuff.
You're wasting your prime looking fat. That's horrible.
If it wasn't for people like me, you wouldn't have a post-fight career.
I want you to know that we were sitting doing fighter
understand.
interviews, and I was fat and happy in there saying, I feel good. And he's going, it's cold in here. It's like, no, it's not. You're just a sissy.
Yes, I am. Yes, I was.
Hey, when winter comes around, you're going to struggle, buddy.
Yeah, I know. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because that's what blankets are for.
That's what
blankets are for.
It's about layers.
Your shins are gonna collapse after Nate Diaz's face.
Oh man,
I am excited about the second half of the tournament and seeing how that whole thing branches out, because I think in reality the right guys won. As far as if you're looking, the experience of Sanchez winning the fight, the complete game of Carvalho and what he brings. Looking at Borch being this guy still unbeaten. And then, Campos coming up with a great win against, an ex-champion.
So I talked to Curran's coaches, and they said he's probably done.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think absolutely. His fiance, he's got a 1-year-old son. His fiance was outside of the cage, and I didn't hear it, but somebody else did. And she was standing there saying, "This is it. You're done. This is it." And when the person that you're going to spend your life with is saying that, they're going to have some influence on you, and they're going to have some say in what you do with the rest of your life.
I feel like they shouldn't.
I'm not saying they should, but I'm saying they will.
I feel like they shouldn't. When it comes to this, it's always easy to say.
And but this is a very selfish game. You got to be selfish. It
is.
But as soon as you bring that other person in, that starts to have to change.
You still need to be selfish.
Okay.
I know it's hard to, but if you want to be one of the best athletes in the world and you want to fight at the highest level or compete at the highest level, whether it be tennis, football, whatever, you need to make sure that your focus is strictly on that. And when your relationship intervenes with comments like that, like, hey, you're done, not like, hey, let's talk about this later.
I didn't say that.
You know what I mean? Like,
and again, I didn't hear
me,
it, but that's what I was told by someone who was near the situation at the time. And when that person who you're supposedly going to spend the rest of your life with is saying you're done, it's probably going to push you in that direction.
Yeah, it's not. I guess for me in that scenario, it's when I saw Peyton Manning give his speech after he lost, or after, are you done? Are you done? And they kept trying to get to him. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go home and relax, have a conversation with my family.
Yeah.
And those are the things, like DC right now,
Yeah.
what he's doing. He's having a conversation with his wife. He's talking with his kids.
He's already had that conversation.
Yeah, but I'm saying like he's already, talking with his coaches.
Sure.
Are we going to do it again? Are we going to run it back? Am I
Yeah.
going to do this one more time?
But you didn't hear anything from Pat.
No, you didn't.
Pat didn't say anything.
You're right.
Okay,
I'm just simply
it's,
saying that those type of comments, though, in the public eye, I feel like you need to take a step back because it's always easy to say like it's done after a loss. Like especially if it's
Dustin Poirier.
your wife or your spouse or whatever it is, like we're done. Calm down. Let's let the dust settle.
Did you see the tweet that Dustin Poirier put out?
No.
Dustin Poirier put out an actual video of himself saying, I don't know if I'm ever going to fight again.
Which is ridiculous.
I'll have to think about. Absolutely, it is.
Which is ridiculous.
Okay, you got a loss. It's okay. You've had a loss before, and look at what you've done since.
Yeah, not only that, but then you lost to. And I'm going to continue to say this because I just love this. Is that he is the greatest fighter in the sport right now. He's the most
dominant fighter.
Most dominant, I should say.
Yeah.
He's the most dominant fighter in the sport right now.
I agree.
Would you say he lost the second round against Poirier?
No.
No, you wouldn't say he lost the second round?
No.
Okay.
Look. He had it. In watching that fight, first, we all know what happened in the first round. Second round, Dustin touches him, and he feels it. You can see it. But Khabib does exactly what, as a coach, I would tell him to do. He tries to gain space. He tries to move himself just to clear his head. He got hit with a good shot, and then what did he end up doing in the round? Yeah. He ended up taking him down and pounding on him some more. He ends up landing as many good strikes as Dustin does with that one setup. The thing that I looked at, the closest Dustin, and people weren't talking about it, it was the third round when Dustin jumped to that guillotine. That guillotine was tight. That guillotine had a chance. That guillotine, when you see Khabib push the knee and get past the knee and then go to his side, and then you see him come back and Dustin readjusts and gets that knee back and he pushes it down again and goes to his side again. All of that because Dustin is squeezing with his arms, and it gets to the point where he squeezes so much that power starts to go away, the pressure on the choke goes away, and you see Khabib pop his head out, and that was the end of the fight. That's where the fight was done.
Yeah, I just feel, and I will continue to say this, he's the most dominant fighter there is right now.
No doubt.
And people are going to criticize him because like, oh, John Jones. John Jones lost plenty of rounds, and potentially I think also I thought he lost his last fight. You disagree. But I thought he lost his last fight against a guy on one leg, by the way. There's no way.
Zero legs. He had surgery on both.
Oh, did he?
Oh, yeah.
I thought he only had it on one.
No,
okay, wow.
He's getting on both.
Even worse. Even worse. You couldn't get a guy out of there that had two messed up legs. Beautiful. It's funny how people change when there's no PEDs involved. It's really strange. It's really strange. Maybe the picogram levels were a little low that day. Who knows? Maybe they came in at like 50 picograms instead of like 180. Yeah. Anyways, look, it's just one of those. I feel like he has positions like this position here. Notice how he's not on his knees.
Yeah.
He's making Dustin carry his weight. He's on his feet. He's always in that like squatted position, making you carry all of his body.
Well, he's
weight.
always, what we call head high. When you think about, we always say high head wins, and it's the one that creates the pressure in that carrying of that weight. And you see Dustin, and when your arms go dead from squeezing hard, it's hard to continue to fight at that. And you see Dustin working and trying. But Khabib almost was his worst enemy trying to jump over the fence there. But you got to give Dustin credit. That guillotine choke, that was close. It was tight. Khabib had to do a lot of things well and do the right things to survive that choke because a lot of guys would have ended up tapping out on that choke.
Yeah, very true.
It was set up the right way. It was set up on the right side. All the adjustments, when Khabib adjusted, Poirier adjusted, there was a lot going on there, and it was just a matter of, because he jumps to it. He jumps to that. Look at the leg over the top. Watch Khabib push the knee. He's going to come in here, pushes the knee, passes the knee. Okay, that's a smart move. That just took a lot of pressure off of it because he can drive himself forward. But then there's so much pressure still because he's got strong arms. He goes to his side to get out. scramble back. You see him go put the knee back. Khabib pushes the knee back again, goes to his side. He's trying to get his arm there, comes back on top, and now his arms are dead.
Yeah.
And he pops his head out.
Yep.
There's a lot going on right there.
It saddens me when people, like when Dustin used to put out a video that says, I may not fight again. You need to take time.
Yes.
You need to take time.
Well,
I understand because I've done it a couple of times where I've just been like, look, I've been thinking about retirement, but I was also 34 years old, 35 when I started saying that, And I said it a little bit when I was around 29 also because I was getting injured all the time. That was different. That was more frustrating to me because, with him, like there's so many more fights for him to have in that division. He looks phenomenal. He looks great. I mean,
and he's become so much better at what he does and how he attacks and when he attacks. And he's not so open and wild like he was at a time when he was in the 145s and taking a lot of shots. He's getting a lot of things to glance off based upon his head movement and the length of where he's firing off. He's got that beautiful front teep kick. That left hand is outstanding as far as how straight it comes. It doesn't loop over a lot.
People, this is where you find out if the person who got to the title right, if they don't win it, or if they do win it and they lose it the next fight, whenever they lose it, are they still the same fighter?
Yeah.
Because the motivation goes away. It's either you regenerate and you come back, like GSP used to do. Like when he lost to Matt Serra, he came back, revamped himself, became more of a wrestler. Sure, we got a lot of snooze fest fights out of that, but he changed and evolved. He evolved his game so he could do this.
There's the clip right there. That's where he says.
Yeah.
So it says if I choose to fight again, if I don't.
I mean, it's okay. That's a little different. I get it. I mean, but let's be real. No, I mean, like, how old is he? 29, 30?
30 or 31? 30.
You are in your prime. In combat sports, 26 to 33. I say 33, 34. Yeah. I'm only going based on because that's when I felt my best was 33, 34. And when you get, I'm like, that's your prime. Do not waste that sitting on the sideline. Like those are your prime money making years. And you're the former champion now. Your pay scale just went up. Even though you're not the champion anymore, they still keep you at a little bit higher pay bracket because you are the former champion. Because I can advertise you and market you as the former champion at 30 years old. And not to mention, I hate to say it, but I don't like to say this about a lot of guys. He's a good-looking kid. He's good-looking. He speaks well, has a great story, does great things in his community. Like, this kid's so marketable. It's unbelievable, and I feel like they kind of missed the boat a little bit on him because he's so soft-spoken.
Yeah.
He is such a great kid.
He's doing the same thing that, you got Justin Wren,
who
everyone knows, Big Pygmy, who has gone to Uganda and the fight for the forgotten and stuff. Well, then Chris Cyborg went with Justin to Uganda, bought 2 wells, paid for the 2 wells and stuff. Dustin Poirier is now part of that and is, buying wells and has a charity for it. Khabib actually donated to his charity for it, and I think, Dana White actually matched it. So
nice.
Look at
that's the least Dana could do.
Well, yeah, no shit, but that's what that position of being champion can do. These are the things that you can now start to do for, the people out there and make a difference. So
it's good. It's good to see.
What is that in the shorter version?
It's so funny when I saw him jump out of the cage. I bet everyone just went.
Oh, like, you knew
everybody was
thinking, who's he going after?
What's going on?
When he went after Dana, I was so excited, and then he hugged him.
The thing is, there's no commission over there, so it's like they probably would have been like, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay."
Mark Ratner was going.
Yeah, I know, heart attack. So, but it's good stuff, man.
You know that he's wearing Dustin's shirt right there, and he says in the interview here that he's gonna sell that shirt now and then donate all the proceeds to Dustin's charity. So I thought that was a nice gesture.
That's a good thing.
No, he
Khabib's a good man.
I want people because I know him. I want people to understand that it's not that sure he has, and I've said this to him to his face. I was like, you've changed, brother. All the success, you have changed. You're not the same anymore. I mean, like before they were staying in an extended stay like a block away from the gym. Now they've got a $25,000 Airbnb. But to knock this, not knock it, but to mention, he doesn't just come with one person when he trains. No. He comes with like 10.
Flock.
Yeah, like 10 of them, right? They all live in the same house. They all make their own food. They're not out drinking and partying. They're just doing their thing. Like they work out. They don't have a 24-hour gym membership. They go to the park where they have the little track and it has all the little like pull-up bars and the sit-up areas, and that's what they work out on.
Because that's what they're used to.
Yes, that's exactly what they do, and it's impressive. Now look, he's got on very nice clothes. He takes care of it. He wears like a lot of fancy stuff now, but it doesn't change his work ethic. He's somebody that he's still I don't know. He's still pretty humble, but he's a good guy. Like I believe, to be honest, I believe that he is still living with his mom and dad.
Yeah.
So his wife,
3-bedroom
his 2 kids,
apartment.
Yes, 3-bedroom apartment
with his wife, kids, and his mom and dad.
Mom and dad. Yep. So that just lets you know, like there's no urgency for him to make.
That's
a ton
why he
of money.
takes a lot of these trips all around to, do charity work and stuff. He's got to get away.
Well, I mean, like his wife is home with the kids and with his mom, and his dad travels with him a little bit whenever he can. But but they're building like a new. I believe it's a 30 or 50,000. I believe it's 50,000 square foot gym over there. Yeah, insane. So I'm excited. They've already started the construction on it. I'm excited to see when it gets done because they keep asking like, hey, come over and do some seminars. I'm like, oh, hell yeah. But it's funny because what was the guy's name that went out there and did like a little documentary on him? Rogan had him on his show.
I don't know.
God.
Did a documentary?
Will, yeah. Yes, he did the documentary. Anyway, he went out to Dagestan. God, what's his name? I just on the tip of my tongue. He went out to Dagestan right before this fight and was doing a documentary on him. And they said, okay, they put him in a nice place, and they stay with and he stayed kind of with some families, people's families and stuff there. And they said, hey, when the sun goes down, do not go outside by yourself. They were just like, hey, this just being, you need to understand. And I think that's why these guys have spent so much time in their gym. That was their safety.
That's it.
Their safe. Will Harris did a good documentary on him, and then talked about all these like their culture over there and how famous he is now. Of course, over there,
he's extremely
famous over there, and it's only going to get better. It's only going to get bigger and better. I mean, he has to beat Tony to solidify the rest, to silence all the critics.
He's got the fight with Tony is important because if you look at that fight, it's the one. It was supposed to happen how many times now? 5 times.
I want to say 5.
Okay, and he's the one guy out there that a lot of people, and I'm one of them, that said, look, if there's a guy that can give Khabib some issues in the fight, Tony Ferguson is that guy. He brings a different style of game. He brings that pressure game. Yep. He is in your face. If you put him on his back, which you can, but he's a good wrestler, you put him on his back, he is going to attack you. Yeah. Now, Khabib's got a different style of pressure. Like I said before, in my opinion, if I'm Tony, if I was in charge of Tony's training, when it came to grappling, all the guys, and I'm going to have a bunch of them, 185, 205, I'm going to have big, strong guys with a ton of strength, ton of pressure, a lot of weight driving down on you. So you're getting up against that type of pressure because that's what Khabib brings. And I think when a guy, one of the things that, was in the comments when you saw Dustin Poirier in between the first and second round was he's right on me. There's a lot of pressure. And, until you have felt it, you just don't realize what it's like.
This one's blinking.
Oh, no, yes.
Okay. No, I'm not just saying this because I fought Tony, but I have the insight on it as far as Tony goes. His hands are extremely big, so the wrist control will be a factor. Yep. Khabib's not going to be able to do the ground and pound as much as he would against other people because Tony's wrist control is phenomenal. And his hands, I got to tell you, when I shook his hands at the weigh-ins, I was like, good God.
Yep.
Like, it just engulfed mine.
And his limbs are long.
Yep. So when we got into the fight, he's not physically strong.
That's not it. But he does have leverage strength.
Yes, because every time I went to roll my wrist or pull my hand away, he sat up on Kimuras or he tried to like hit submissions from there. And there was nothing I could do. I couldn't get my hand back. His hand went around my forearm and slid down to the glove, and I was stuck. There was nothing I could do. And overall, I thought to myself, I'm like, that's going to pose a problem if he ever did fight Khabib. There's that, and Khabib fights with a shaved head. Couple cuts on the head, and all of a sudden, this is a different fight. With all the blood that runs into your face with nothing to stop it, that poses a problem. And Tony's the guy. If Dustin Poirier got that close to a guillotine on Khabib, Tony is that guy with the length and
his Darce
the
attack,
flexibility
I'm telling you, man.
Is nasty. So guillotines and Darces, all those things will play a factor into this. The way that Khabib
and
shoots
there
his
is
takedowns.
not a position, be it on his back, on top, on side. There's not a position that Tony cannot hit that Darce.
Yeah,
he hits that thing from all angles, all positions. When you think he can't, he can.
Yeah, and it's not just that. It's just every time Khabib is hanging out on the legs, Tony's going to be grabbing the head or pushing the head and elbowing it to open up cuts.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got 2 Mercedes-Benz right here from him, right? So the scars are there, and I have a big gash here, too, that it's from him. So I'm just telling you, it seemed like every time he touched me, I got cut.
Yeah.
It reminded me a little bit of like the old school Kenny Florian. When Kenny would just throw the elbow in, and he would just touch you and just cut you. Yeah, I remember that. I remember the fight. I believe it was in the finals against Alex Karalexis, right? He threw the elbow, cut him across the nose. Was it Karalexis?
Oh no, that was he did cut Karalexis, but he cut Chris Lieben to get into the finals to face Diego Sanchez as Ultimate Fighter 1.
But in the finals, it was Karalexis, wasn't it?
No.
Who did he fight? Where in the finals he knocked?
No, you're thinking about Sean Shirk. In a championship fight, he cut Sean Shirk, and then Sean Shirk bled on him for 5 rounds.
Yeah.
Because he was underneath him. So, and he told me, he says that was the biggest mistake of my life.
Oh man, but I feel like those are the threats that Tony brings, because when you get into that fight, if he locks in, puts you in the guard, like it's gonna be hard for him for Khabib to get out of that guard. Yeah. Not only just to get out of that guard, but to get out of there without sustaining a whole lot of damage.
Yeah.
So taking a substantial amount of cuts and elbows.
You have got to think about what you do in posture when it comes to Tony.
Yeah.
Because if you put your head down in any fashion, he's gonna attack it.
Yeah.
And it's they're both, and this is what makes the fight so interesting, that it's not happened is crazy, but there's the reasons behind it. They've tried. They both bring certain elements that nobody else brings.
How much, though, for me, I fought him before he had tore his knee.
Yeah.
And if you look at that scar, it looks like an old veteran.
It looks like an old Dick Butkus scar from the 70s on his knee. It's just unbelievable. Yeah.
It's insane to me to think, like, in this day and age with technology, science and technology, that you end up with something that looks like a really big vagina on the side of your leg. It's so long and so big that I'm just thinking to myself, like, that's disgusting. Like, how did you?
You're going after Rogan's old GV.
Yeah, it's like, how are you getting that? And so, anyways, I haven't felt like he's been the same fighter though since that surgery. Don't get me wrong, he's had great fights, good fights, but the Tony Ferguson I felt like I fought wouldn't have had such a close fight with Anthony Pettis. It would have been good, but it was one of those fights. It was closer than it should have been.
Yeah,
that was a tough fight. I thought he dominated, but there was some. He took a lot of damage in that fight.
He's been taking more damage, even in the fights. If you go back and after you fought him, Edson Barbosa fought him, and I did that fight. And look at Edson Barbosa hit him with some shots.
Yes.
There was some damage, and Tony was walking through what Edson was hitting him with at times. It was like incredible. Then the next fight he had, I did again, Venata, Lando.
That was a great fight.
Oh my God.
I was like, who's this guy? There's no way this guy has a chance.
Lando
Good
put
God.
him on his butt at
Sioux
times.
Falls. I was in Sioux Falls.
Sioux Falls, exactly.
I was there.
Incredible. But again, taking damage. And so you've got to be careful about how much damage you take, because you can only crash that freaking car so many times, especially
at his age. And I'm not trying.
No.
This is that age where I started realizing that like, hey, the shots you're taking, there's a little bit more sting to them.
Yeah.
And it's not that they hurt. It's just you realize there's a jolt that you never felt when you were 30 and
You
31
get
and
that
32.
buzz.
Yeah. It's like, oh, wow. All of a sudden, you hit me and you're in front of me. By the time I get done buzzing, you're over there. Oh, shit. And then by then, I've got hit again probably.
Yeah.
So those little things start happening around that 35, 36, 37, range.
That's the fight. And they already said, that is definitely going to be.
It has to be. There's honestly, if they
But
didn't
there's
make
some
this,
curse over
Yeah.
that fight.
Yeah, I know.
5 times.
If they didn't make this fight,
All the
though,
way to the freaking week of the fight.
that was crazy. I
Oh,
mean, how insane is? I was there in Vegas waiting. I'm like, okay, we're like 2 days away. All right, I'm ready. And all of a sudden they call it, fight's off. I'm all, get the out of here. No
And
way.
it's happened to both of them. Tony,
No way.
a weight cut with Khabib, a
Yep.
freaking
The
the
knee with
knee stepping on a production cable.
that's insane.
No.
What are the chances of that? Seriously, what are the chances? But I mean, that's the fight's got to happen. But then, if that fight happens, let's just say Khabib wins. Where does he go? What does he do? GSP. That's the only thing you don't think is going to happen?
No, I
65 or 55 if it did.
If it happened at 65, I think George might think about it, but it's not going to happen at 65.
No.
UFC is
Come
big
on.
into the weight class is there. All they got to do is say,
Explain the weight classes. We talked about this. No one realizes the weight class is there.
Oh yeah,
Explain it.
Let's. I want to say it was 2 years ago. All these weight classes were added to the unified rules of MMA.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 25. We actually have lower than that. They did that long ago, which is stupid. But 25 is what we use for men at flyweight, 35 for bantamweight, 45 for featherweight, 55 for lightweight. Well, then instead of it going up to welterweight at 170, the UFC, let's just be flat out honest, the UFC complained about this and were concerned about it because they didn't want to change their champion. They didn't want Tyrone Woodley, who was the champion at the time that this was changed. We don't want to have to move him. He's our welterweight champion. So there was an agreement made with the UFC that, okay, we'll put in a 65, which is going to be called basically super lightweight, and then we'll leave the 170 there for you right now. They left the 170 at welterweight, and then they put in a 175 at super welterweight, right? So our weight classes should have been just 10-pound increments, 125,
Yes.
35, 45, 55, 65, 75, 85, 95. 205. Well, and this is the problem is you can understand when promotions start to go, as we go up in weight, our talent level starts to come down.
Yeah. And not only that, but there's less of them.
That's why it's come down.
Yeah.
There's less of them like you're saying, and there's some less skill levels like you want to try to point out.
Yeah.
Okay, but there's just more guys
Well,
at
it's
that.
true. They're not as talented.
At 55.
They're not as talented as us.
45 to 70 or 75. That's a huge pool for them to draw within, and so that they can absorb it. But there is that 10-pound weight. So right now there's a 175-pound class. There's a 165-pound class. It is sitting there. When Nate Diaz says, hey, I want you to make 165, or when Ben Askren does, that weight class is there. It's not like they're trying to make up something. It is sitting there. All you have to do is say, we're going to use it. Now, you don't have to. If you're the promotion, if you're the UFC, if you're Bellator, you don't have to have a champion in every weight class. Bellator doesn't have a flyweight champion. We do flyweight fights, but we don't have a flyweight champion. They've decided right now we don't want to go after the flyweights. The UFC was thinking about getting rid of the flyweights, but a promotion doesn't have to have a champion in every weight class. Yeah. But if you have all these people fighting, they should be fighting at a weight that is better for them, more healthy for them. And some of these guys are what we call those tweeners. You know what? 170 is killing them to get to, but they can get to 175 and be fairly healthy. Yeah. That's a good thing for them to do. So why not do that for them?
Yeah, I agree. I think also because it is such a talent-rich pool there at that weight class. Adding the 65, and then taking your champion to 175, or having him cut to 65. And he could be the champion there. I mean, I think you'd have to make him fight for the 65-pound title, but at 75, you could just bounce him up there.
Yeah.
I think because you got to see if you can make that weight. That's the other thing. Can you make that championship weight every time at 65 if you're going from 70 to 65?
Well, And that's part of the equation of people. Well, you're putting more weight classes. Now the guy that's a 170 is now going to try to go down to 165, and so he'll be more unhealthy.
That makes for some great fights, though. And I'm not. Here's the thing: like Ben Askren. Ben Askren says he can make 65 no problem.
Yeah.
Tyron Woodley.
Well, look at where he used to wrestle.
Yeah.
He can.
Yeah. So
let's be honest.
But then Tyron Woodley's like, no, I'd go to 75.
He should go to 75.
Yeah, and that'd
be a lot better for him.
Yep, exactly. So those guys, there's a mix in there. Plus, you could potentially see Conor come back at 55. You can see Khabib go up to 65 and potentially fight someone like GSP. There's a lot of good fights at that weight class. When you get to the 95 is when it gets hairy. Well, because there's just no talent.
Again,
there's hardly any talent now.
You do not have to use that weight class.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's just if the weight class is there and you have a plethora of talent, why not use it?
No, I agree. I don't understand their logic behind that. I mean, I did hear for a while that there was talk of them starting that 65. Yeah. But Dana tried to squash that and peter that out.
Yeah.
And
and they get to this point we don't want that many champions. It's like
you're adding one.
Exactly. You're adding one. Yeah. And it only helps you that you can have a championship fight in your pay-per-views. That's important.
Yeah, because so you can have less interim titles, by the way. Okay, there's that, and the other thing as well is when you have someone like Khabib who's just a fucking star. Okay, like when you have someone like that, you can promote and build, and why not have him be a 2-division champion, potentially having a 3-division champion?
The thing with Khabib is that people are not getting because they don't understand. Sometimes you get tied into your world, and in the U.S., Khabib is this much of a star. You go outside of the U.S. and you start going to some of these other countries. And you go to Russia, and look, Russia's a lot bigger than us as far as size of country and population. He is a megastar. He is freaking. He's Ronaldo.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy. Here's the thing: like even in the States, he's a star here too. But it's like not on the scale of what you're talking about. But if you take him to New York or you take him to Chicago, where there's a huge Russian population.
Yep.
That's why Fedor fights in Chicago.
Absolutely.
He fights in L.A. And he fights in New York. Because the Russian population there is huge. And they come out. And they come out every single time. Yeah. So
let's talk. I want to go before we have to end this because I know we got to end this soon. But the bad motherfucker title. Are you kidding me?
I thought it was the big money fight.
When did Vince McMahon switch over to that promotion called the UFC? It was WWE, I thought. They're going to make a belt. Now, look, I love the fight.
Yeah.
I love Nate. I love George Masvidal. They're both just gangsters, East Coast, West Coast, whatever you want to talk. That's all beautiful. You're going to make a belt? The BMF? How come Donald Cerrone never fought for that sucker?
Maybe he's not hood enough.
He's got bad motherfucker ranch.
Yeah, but it's just maybe he's not hood enough. He's not from Stockton. He's not from I don't know where.
Well, you guys know that they were trying to make Colby and Usman for this card, and then that fell through. And so, like,
why? Does anyone know? Do you know anything on why that's falling through?
Negotiations, apparently.
Is that the Kobe thing?
That's He
wants a lot of money.
He wants a lot of money for that fight, and it's like, hey, I got to tell you, and this is where it comes down. This is no different to me than Khabib and Dustin. Look at Dustin won that fight against Max Holloway, incredible performance. That's an interim title, and like you just said, that's a paper champion. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, you won that fight, but you're not the champion.
Yeah.
Khabib was the champion, and I think and Khabib even came out saying, "Hey, he ain't the champion."
Yeah.
And Colby, you never won that title.
Yeah.
That title was Tyron Woodley's. Okay, and they did an interim, and yes, you won it. You beat RDA, but you ain't the champion, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm all for you getting as much money as you can get. But you have a chance of being the guy. You have a chance of getting that title. And I'll take less in this fight to get that so I can get more in my next. It's just the way I look at it.
Yeah, I feel like once you win that that title, like
Now you're entitled.
Yeah, the money is such a difference. It's a life changer.
Sure it is.
You know, when you're the champion, the money changes lives.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's funny because I've had this conversation because we've got the guys that are fighting in this featherweight tournament for Bellator. A couple of the guys are from the same camp. You know? And so that being said, I was like, hey, like, what are you gonna do? Are you guys gonna fight each other? And they're like, look, when there's this much money on the line, yeah. And I said that a long time ago because Gil and I were training together for a while, and then I also trained with Gray Maynard at the same time he was making his run for his title shot, and I was right there because I had just beat Nate, and then Khabib was coming up. People were talking about he came. Obviously, it took him a long time to get to that title, but there was talk and buzz, and they were talking to me because I was cornering him for some of his fights. And Ariel and those guys were asking, like, hey, well, there's 3 of you guys at lightweight. All 3 of you guys are at the top. What are you going to do? I said, well, let's worry about that when the time comes. That was what I kept saying because let's worry about that when the time comes because the way it all worked out, Gray ended up losing to Nate. I ended up losing to Benson. And Khabib is still undefeated. So it didn't matter. So why even start stirring the pot when you don't need to? That's one. And then 2 is if I'm going to fight someone, especially a teammate, it's for the title. Because that money changes that changes lives.
Yep.
Okay, I'm not trying to step on anyone to get there, especially someone that I'm really close with. Okay, and I train with, but for that title shot, I want. If you have a chance to change that person's life and their family's lives, I'm sorry, I can't stop them from doing that. If I'm the champion, I'm not trying to step on them. I'm not trying to hold them back.
It all comes down to this.
Way.
If it's I always looked at it. If it's an everyday, you know, hey, we want to match you guys up. And, you know, that's your choice. Mm-hmm. I always look at it and say, just not worth it to me.
Yeah.
Okay. But title shots are different than matchups. Mm-hmm. Title shots are earned. Title shots are you've done something that's put you in that position.
Yep.
You have created this situation where you are now in that level that I can help my friend make life-altering money. Mm-hmm. My friend can help me make life-altering money. Yes, I'm going to try to hurt him for that 25 minutes of time. And then afterwards, we're going to go have a beer.
Yep.
Okay? Because we just made a lot of money.
Exactly.
Okay? And that's what it is. And it's just competition. People get this whole thing about fighting that there's anger. There's no anger there. Okay?
Usually when there is, you're not fighting very well.
That's exactly the truth, man. But, you know, fighting is competition. It's no different than if you're a great tennis player. You want to play, you know, if you're a female tennis player, you want to play against Serena Williams. Why? I want to prove I can beat her.
Yep.
Okay. That's what fighting is. There's no anger to it. And if I can help my friend become set for life, let's do it.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I mean, as far as this fight goes, I can't wait. I cannot wait.
That's a good one.
I think
that's a stylistic matchup that's really interesting.
I want to know how the trash talk's going to go, though, because I don't think it's going to be like normal trash talk. It needs to be respectful trash talk. They have made this fight the most talked about fight, I think, outside of Tony and Khabib, the most talked about fight in the whole sport, because these guys, there's no title on the line, but they're like, I want to fight the baddest motherfucker.
Yeah.
And I think he is the baddest motherfucker, and let's do it. I'm glad these guys are taking control of their own destiny.
Yep.
Chael talks about this all the time. You need to call someone out.
Come on, Daniel Carey called out Chael Sonnen.
I love it, man. Come catch these hands, dog. Come catch these hands. That. I love it. That was
as soon
great.
as he did it, I go, oh, I get it. That's funny, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, why? He's not even the same weight class. Like, you don't get it.
You don't understand. You don't understand. Yeah. Anyways, I'm excited for the fight. Do they have a date for it yet?
November 2nd.
Yes, November 2nd in New York.
In New York.
Madison Square Garden. That's the main
fight.
event.
That's a good fight.
That is a really good fight. Look at, I say look at all the time.
You
but
think
look
so?
at, I would spend money every time to watch Nate Diaz fight because he fights.
Yeah.
He always comes after it. He may lose, but you know he's going to give it everything he has, and he will not back down. Masvidal. He has attained that level, and especially he's 34 years of age now. Man, you know, I can remember talking to George about, hey, you need to go up in weight. You need to go up in weight because he was losing so much weight to get to the lightweight at 155, and his performances would tail off quickly because he was just draining himself.
We were supposed to fight a couple times.
What he's done at welterweight It's been incredible.
Yeah.
You know, and when I talked to him, it was about, hey, man, do you overpower guys? Is that what you do? I go, you are a technical fighter.
Yeah.
You're a guy that I hit and don't get hit.
Yep.
Like, you don't need that extra size.
Yeah,
it's not going to do you any good.
The guys at ATT used to tell me that Hector Lombard and him would spar, and he would piss off Hector because Hector tries to
Kill
take
everybody.
tries to kill people at the gym when they're training, and he's just so technical. He would make Hector move, and he would touch him, pop, 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 and then move and get out. And Hector would always try to like kill him, and he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so, and even though they had good goes back and forth, but they loved training with each other because George liked the guy that would try to get after him.
He liked the guy that went after him, went to try to take his head off.
And he's just the guy that just was, you're not going to get me. I'm not going to let you get me. And I love it. I love seeing the progression of him because for me, I don't know if this is true or not. He's the first guy I ever saw use the calf kick in the sport. You know, and it was effective. He did it back in Strikeforce when he first came onto the scene. Yeah. He was kicking people in the low calf. He dropped Gil Melendez, I want to say two times, I think, in that fight. And then changed the way Gil fought. Had he not broke his hands, I think it would have been a different fight. He broke his hand, I think, in the first or second round of that fight.
I was a judge of that fight.
Yeah, and it just it changed how he fought. Maybe the weight cut did get to him and he tailed off, but the broken hand, I think, had a lot to do with it because he wasn't really throwing it as much. Yeah. Anyways, good stuff. Good shows. You have LA. I don't have LA. I have Dublin the night before.
You're gonna have a hell of a night.
I know
that card's stacked. I'm telling you, you are gonna have so much fun. The 3 Arena in Dublin is unbelievable. The fans in Dublin are unbelievable. They are gonna be there to back their guys. They're gonna be singing. They're gonna be dancing. They're gonna be doing all kinds of crazy stuff. You're going to have a different announcer. You won't have Michael Williams. You'll probably have Bud Day Johnson. That's what I call him. Great guy. Good announcer. Learn from Michael Williams. And you won't be able to hear him announcing the fighters.
Why?
Because the crowd is that loud.
Oh, wow.
It is so cool.
Good deal.
You're going to have a blast there.
I think it's going to be fun. I'm just upset because, like I said, we talked about Campos, and he was talking to me about, who should I take next, that kind of thing. I wanted to be there. What was going on?
I know you do.
Because these guys have to make that decision.
I want to be in Dublin. I want to be in both too.
These guys got to make that decision in LA. Yeah. Right there on the spot. Because they're all going to be there. So the ones that won last night got to be in LA.
Yep.
Because they have to make the decision based off, okay, so-and-so won. Okay, who do we want to fight? So they're sitting at home right now with their camps going, hey, if this guy wins, we take him. If this guy wins, if this guy wins, we're not taking that guy.
And if you're not doing that, if you're not thinking about that, you're crazy.
Yeah.
But again,
stupid,
you might not even get that opportunity based upon you could do all of this calculation.
Yeah.
And depending upon where your position pops up, you might not even get that call. The only thing you get a call on is when I get to fight.
Yeah.
So that's what makes this so intriguing.
Yeah. I want to explain how they're going to do it, but I think the details and stuff more will come out. They're doing it the old K1 ways, and I don't want to spoil it and stuff. But it's going to be amazing on how these guys get to select their opponents as well as the location of where they're going to fight. And I think that it's going to make it really fun. You're going to see who wants to be champion, and you want to see who wants to take the easy road to try to get to that finals and try to have potential. And I'm not knocking
everything is about being a tactician.
Yep.
I don't have to have my dessert first. Don't have to. And this is what I'm talking about.
So much better when it's there, though.
It's so technical. There's so much tactical that needs to go into this if you're smart, because do you want to have this early thing and not get the grand prize? Or do I want the whole thing? It comes down to the old bull, young bull thing. Yeah. You know what? Take your time. Think about what you're doing. This is about being smart.
Yeah. Just walk down the hill and fuck them all.
There you go.
That's exactly. We wouldn't expect you to understand. It's an American thing. Yeah. All right. I guess that's it, right?
Sounds good.
You got to catch a flight?
I do. I got to get out of here. I got to go down. My dad's having surgery, so I got to go see him.
He's good. In Arizona, you said?
No, he's in Southern California.
Southern California. Okay.
So. Short flight.
Hopefully it's not anything
Southwest,
too
baby.
Serious.
Gotta love him. Nah, he'll be fine.
Okay.
It's going to be good.
Love the story, by the way. All right, wish him
Don't
best.
tell anyone.
No, of course not. I wish him the best and
Thank you very
safe
much.
travels. And we'll touch base. We probably won't do a show then tomorrow because you have surgery and
Yeah.
or your dad has surgery,
Yeah.
and then we'll go from there. We'll figure it out.
Yep.
We'll touch base. Hey
Sounds
guys,
good.
also we wanted to touch real quick on the contest.
Yep.
Just real quick, Dave, why don't you run us through it because you're the one with the computer in front of you.
WIP.
And use English, please.
I was gonna say I'll do it in my thickest Scottish accent for you.
Yes.
A thicker Scottish accent.
So the contest is sending your best caricature, animation, or graphic to contestwip@gmail.com for the chance to win some awesome MMA swag and memorabilia.
That was good. Can you try speaking English now? Yeah. So if you guys want, we're trying to look for something we could put potentially on shirts as well as like as a logo for our
Start our show off.
to start our shows off. So that is something we're
Little
looking for.
artwork.
If you guys can do that for us, send in your designs. We will pick a winner, and you guys will get old throwback stuff from possibly like UFC 1.
Possibly.
Possibly. Whatever we have in our vault is what we'd like to call it. I've got some old stuff from Strikeforce days, UFC days back in 42, 44, 46, 49, all that. I also have some Pride stuff.
Might even
by the
end up
way.
with a UFC mat.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, like I have some old Pride stuff. I've got some old Dream stuff. I've got all this stuff. So
Yeah, so do I.
and it's just in my garage taking up
Taking up
space. So
space.
I'm willing to go ahead and part with some of this stuff. So all right.
Maybe we should trade.
All right. So hey, if you haven't hit the subscribe button on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all those things, please hit that subscribe button. Also on YouTube, hit the thumbs up. That will share our videos to everything. So that will get the word out. That'll come up on all the honorable mentions. Every time you scroll through MMA stuff, it'll show our videos there. We're talking about MMA. Big John and I putting this thing together, man. This is our 9th show, right? 9th?
10th.
This is 10th?
11th.
11th. We don't
I-
even know
I
what we're
can't-
doing.
I can't count. Yeah, we're still trying to figure it out, okay? We're working this out.
Someday I'll learn to count.
You can follow me at The Real Punk on Twitter and Instagram and also on Facebook. And then what's yours?
Follow me at John McCarthy MMA, either Instagram, Twitter. Just hit me up. You got a question? I'll answer it, usually.
Yes, usually. All right, guys. Hey, thanks. Hope you guys enjoy the show and hit the subscribe button.
Later.